Funding for this edition of Remember Them with Steve Adubato and Jacqui Tricarico has been provided by PSEG Foundation. NJM Insurance Group, serving New Jersey's drivers, homeowners, and business owners for more than 100 years. The New Jersey Education Association. Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey. Here when you need us most. The Northward Center. Kane University, where cougars climb higher. New Jersey Sharing Network. And by Community Food Bank of New Jersey. Promotional support provided by NJ.com, keeping communities informed and connected. And by ROINJ, informing and connecting businesses in New Jersey.
Hi, everyone. Steve Adubato for my colleague Jacqui Tricarico, and thank you for joining us as we remember three very significant philanthropic leaders who were based in New Jersey but had impact and influence well beyond the Garden State. Jacqui, who are they?
Yeah, first up, we are talking about Russell Berrie. He had his own business for many years, but had such a philanthropic arm and wanted to give back to the community in which he lived and served, and started the Russell Berrie Foundation, which developed really great awards called the Making a Difference Awards that you've been a part of for many years, Steve, hosting their event out of Ramapo College. They've been giving away tons of money to people in the Garden State who have gone above and beyond to give back to the community, really are unsung heroes here in New Jersey. And then after that, we talk about Mike and Elaine Adler, who created the Adler Aphasia Center. Mike suffering a stroke and also having aphasia after that stroke. Mike and Elaine knowing that they needed to create a place that people with aphasia could come to for resources.
And caregivers, tools. Jacqui.
Yeah, and caregivers as well. Yeah, tools to get better and to navigate a new life living with aphasia. So two really great philanthropic organizations in New Jersey. And we get to talk about all three of those individuals with people who were closest to them, friends and family.
Yeah, and on a selfish personal note, three friends, colleagues who have been very supportive of our work and they've really made us better by helping us understand the importance of philanthropy and people giving back, and also teaching us about aphasia, which is afflicting so many people across this nation. For Jacqui and myself, we talk about philanthropic leaders who we need to remember. We're now joined by Scott Berrie, who is a trustee of the Russell Berrie Foundation and Russ's son. Good to see you, Scott.
Good to see you, Steve. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing great. It was an honor to know and work with your dad for many years. The most significant memory that you have of your dad, not just on a personal level, but also as someone who cared deeply about other people, which is why these Making a Difference awards are so important. Please.
Yeah, there's so many different memories. It's really hard to choose just one, but they all kind of corral around my dad's deep feelings for the underdog, and deep empathy for the underdog. I would be sitting at watching a movie with him or whatever it might be, and suddenly he would start to cry or it'd start to tear up over something. And I think the Make a Difference awards were really something that touched him. And meeting people who were taking time out of their lives, or in many cases making their lives all about serving other people, really touched him deeply. And these were underdogs who were doing whatever they could to help others in need in their communities. And that's kind of, it's not necessarily one specific thing, but I guess at the Make a Difference awards, I do remember him, at various times kind of welling up over the people that we were coming across, which was really an amazing experience.
Scott, do you remember when you first started talking about the awards and the importance of starting it, making it happen, making them happen?
Yeah, absolutely. Before we became a formalized foundation, we used to meet once a month at his dining room table and at his house. And we had bagels and lox and everything all set up, and which is a tradition we still have at the foundation. And I remember him feeling like, this is great what we're doing here in this living room and what we're giving to other people and to other organizations. But wouldn't it be great to really create something that recognizes other people for what they're doing to change their community, that will raise attention to raise awareness of people who are doing great things and inspire other people to do acts of kindness, other people to do sudden acts of bravery, other people to inspire devoting their whole life to serving their community.
Again, being a part of the awards from the beginning, I always was moved by not just how he was moved and everyone in the audience, but the fact that there was a financial component to the award. The people who won these awards received money, and they could use it however they chose to. And many of them used it to support their not-for-profit organization. Why was that financial piece of it, Scott, so important to your dad?
I'm not sure exactly why. I know that my dad understood the value of money. I think he understood that money makes a difference, a lot of difference in people's lives and what they could do. I think it made a big difference in terms of understanding. And he had faith that the people who would be receiving these gifts would most likely put it back into their organizations. Or in some cases, if they didn't have enough to either house themselves or something, that they could use the money to do something. And I think he really enjoyed, the joy that people got out of receiving these gifts, out of receiving this recognition for what they did. And the money was only, sort of secondary to it.
A very successful business person who understood the importance of philanthropy. How early on did you recognize that in him? That philanthropy was a key to who he was as a person, not just making money, but being a philanthropist.
I think my earliest memory of any kind of charitable or philanthropic is really something my grandfather did that I imagine really influenced my father. My grandfather was not a wealthy man. He was a blue collar, a guy who grew up during the Depression. And he gave money to a pool in Israel for victims of the Holocaust. And I, as a 7-year-old in 1972, conflated Mark Spitz, who had won the Olympics, with this great, gigantic Olympic-sized pool. Well, many years after my grandfather passed away, and I think a few years before my father passed away, I discovered a small book that had pictures of this tiny little pool. And it literally was maybe 3 feet by 3 feet. And I think that really meant a lot to my father. It meant a lot in terms of the generosity that my grandfather showed when he didn't have a lot of money. It showed a connection to Israel and the Jewish people, which my father was very connected to. And I think it inspired him in many ways.
You are the best. Each one of you epitomizes exactly the kind of life that we all should lead. You've done it with your hands. You've done it with your mind. You've done it because you care about people. You've done it because you want to make it a better world, and you've done so.
We continue talking about Russ Berrie with someone who knew him very well. Cathy Davey, president of the Holy Name Foundation. Cathy's formerly the executive director of the Ramapo Foundation, worked very closely with the Russell Berrie Foundation on the Making a Difference Awards. Cathy, thank you for joining us.
Of course, a pleasure to be with you.
What made Russ so special?
I think his vision, you know so well, Steve, he was such an extraordinary, innovative businessman that I think he easily used that same feeling and desire when it came to his philanthropy. So he thought about a way to really recognize those individuals who were unsung heroes, who were making a difference. And he just loved the opportunity to showcase the best and the brightest of people doing good in New Jersey.
Well said. Let me, and you were there so many years, we were there together, and I continue to be honored by hosting that event.
Yes.
I think I did it starting from the beginning.
Of course.
Not about me, but about my recollection of Russ. The one thing about Russ during the ceremony, while we were recognizing so many unsung heroes who made a difference, who were making a difference in the lives of so many, it was very emotional for him. Talk about that.
He really, through the whole process, he would first read some of the nomination packages of those that were being honored, and you could see his emotion building up at that time. But always, as you know, on stage, when you would start talking about the heroic efforts, particularly those who had accomplished something heroic, he would just tear up. I think probably the individual that would most come to mind when I think about that is Dana Christmas, the young
from
woman
Seton Hall
from
University.
Yes, Seton Hall University fire that, frozen January morning at 4 a.m. when the fire broke out in Bowling Hall. She went from room to room banging on the doors, and at that time, young people aren't always as quick to respond when there's a fire alarm going off. And knowing that she risked her own life to make sure they got out of the building. I think she had 3rd and 4th degree burns, probably over about 60% of her body. But they called her the Angel of Bowling Hall. She saved so many individuals. And I remember her walking up on the steps of the platform, and Russ had tears, rolling down his cheeks. But that kind of person who went from the heroic efforts to really being an advocate, and, she was just so brilliant about saying she wasn't going to let all that pain and suffering not have an impact. And she went on to help with the legislation in New Jersey. And then eventually...
About sprinklers in buildings.
Yes. And then eventually the National Campus Act that made all the colleges and universities publish information about their fire efforts and what was transpiring on campus. And that's the kind of thing that just made Russ so emotional, to know that there were people like that in New Jersey. He really wanted to promote New Jersey as a great state.
We continue remembering Russ Berrie by talking to our friend Warren Struhl, who is a co-founder of G.O.A.T Foods. Good to see you, Warren.
How are you, Steve?
I'm doing all right. Hey, most significant memory of Russ is?
So I think it was 1998, and I was sitting in my office, and I got this call from Russ and said, "Warren, you got a few minutes?" I said, "Sure. What do you have?" And he said, "So I want to take 10 of your friends, you and 9 friends, and me and 9 of my friends, and I want to take you guys. I'm paying for everything, and I want to take you to Israel." I said, "What?" "I want to take you to Israel, and I want your generation, about 20 years younger than Russ, want to teach your generation with my friends, get to know your friends, and learn about philanthropy." That was a very prolific phone call that I got, and one that was probably the most memorable moment of Russ Berrie.
Warren, one of the things about Russ that I knew because of Russ and Angelica and some others that I went to Israel. And every year that would go on, more and more people would be introduced to Israel. And what always struck me was Russ's passion for Israel, and particularly as we're taping in 2024, more significant than ever, I imagine. Russ's passion for Israel, talk about it.
He was extremely passionate about the history. He believed it was his ancestors' homeland. He was very curious as a human in general, but was highly curious. And I saw that curiosity and his thirst for learning when we went to Israel. And we just really had a whirlwind trip, seeing Israel through his eyes, who had been there. He had been there many times. And I know he was, on multiple occasions, deeply emotional about what he saw.
Russ, as a business person, as an entrepreneur, and as a leader, describe his style and why he was so successful.
So I met Russ in the 90s, early 90s, and we shared a kindred spirit. I was a junior entrepreneur compared to him at the time, and got to know him, went to his office a bunch, heard all his stories. We exchanged some of mine as well. But after the trip, actually, we decided to do a business together. And I came to him with this idea, and he thought it was wonderful to in essence, co-partner on a food concept with the Russ brand. And what I learned quickly about him as an entrepreneur is really what I saw in his general interactions with him, and that is his precision, his thoughtfulness. He was very thoughtful about every interaction, every product that we were creating together. And it was just incredible to see this man who was running a large public company, who was just precise and always wanted to know about details about everything that was going on.
He did.
And he never got bored of asking questions. It was just incredible. And I think that the spirit of that entrepreneurial DNA is where how I believe entrepreneurs like Russ and others get successful.
To watch more Remember Them with Steve Adubato and Jacqui Tricarico, find us online and follow us on social media.
Mike and Elaine Adler is the founders of the Adler Aphasia Center. Mike and Elaine Adler. Elaine, let me ask you, we've been doing this for several years now. It is, in fact, the 10th anniversary of the Adler Aphasia Center, but I do not want to assume that people know what aphasia is, and that is why we've been doing programming for a decade on aphasia. Go, what is it?
Aphasia is the inability to communicate, mainly after a left brain stroke, could be traumatic brain injury or a growth on the brain. The people who are afflicted lose their ability to speak, to communicate. Everything is up there in the brain. They know what they want to say. They just can't get it out. What a frustration.
And Mike experienced, you were dealing with aphasia since what year, Mike?
20 years now.
20 years ago. A very successful businessman, engaged in a whole range of business activities. 20 years ago, it afflicts you. It changes your life dramatically. And for 20 years, you've been not just working on your own rehab, but this initiative, the Adler Aphasia Center, expanding dramatically. How has this changed your life, Mike?
It's changed my life for the better. I can walk, I can talk. Change my love to help people get better. It was so hard for me to get my language back. I thought I had everything, wife, children, and it was so difficult to speak. I figured everybody should get a hand at that.
We continue talking about the legacy of Mike and Elaine Adler. Just made a difference with so many people in need. And one of those people who really knew them best, Naomi Gewirtz, president and CEO of the Adler Aphasia Center, established in 2003. Naomi, first of all, thank you for joining us. Mike and Elaine, describe them as committed, caring people who wanted to make a difference for those who are dealing with aphasia.
Everything I've ever heard and have known about Mike and Elaine had to do with their generosity and their kindness. And as you said, making a difference. They created the center as a place to be a home and an inspiration and a place for people with aphasia, but really created so much more. And through their generosity and their commitment to having a home for people with aphasia and their caregivers and educating the community, I think everything that everyone has ever said about them as humans is just embed in everything that our center is and what can be felt here.
You know, I've been honored for so many years to MC, host, and try to raise money for the Adler Aphasia Center, but I've seen it grow and evolve dramatically. Describe where it is today and why Mike and Elaine would be so proud of the work that the Adler Aphasia Center is doing.
Yeah, they certainly would be. So the center has grown in many ways, certainly by locations. We first started in Maywood, and celebrated our 20th anniversary just recently. And now we have multiple locations throughout the state, not just in person, but have changed our programming over time. So naturally, 20 years ago, it made the most sense to bring people together in person and do what I think we do best. And at the same time, as times have changed and technology has changed, we've evolved to meet people where they are. So that's a tremendous way that we've grown. We've stayed committed to our members through the pandemic. And then following that, have continued to grow virtually, meeting more members and their needs.
Mike Adler was dealing with aphasia. He was someone who was suffering from it, dealing with it, and being so strong and not just wanting to get better for himself, but frankly, helping others. And then the caregivers like Elaine. Be specific about how it's life-changing in terms of the work that Mike and Elaine created and the impact it has on people's lives.
Sure. I think it's completely life-changing, not just people, they understand that medically something happens, right? And it's life-changing in that way. But it's life-changing in every facet of someone's life. The obvious, the communication for some, the physical changes, but it impacts certainly your ability to communicate, therefore your ability to have relationships with your family, your friends, if you were someone who was working, whether or not you're able to go back to work. And so every facet of one's life and what they knew before a brain injury or a stroke, it changes. And I think part of what's so special about coming here is that it's not therapy. And so what we're trying to do is teach and educate and create a home so that people can then go out into the community that they define as their community, and be a part of that community. Maybe it looks different than what it was in the past, but they have the skills and the knowledge and I think the ability to go back and be part of that community.
We're now joined by Crystal Stewart Batson, who's a board member with the Adler Aphasia Center and a former patient there. Crystal, good to see you again.
Nice to meet you also. I'm also actually as a current member of the center.
Let's listen. I knew Mike and Elaine for 20 plus years. What are the most significant memories for you of both Mike and Elaine Adler?
Well, when I out my stroke after Mike had passed, and I was lost and desperate, didn't know what to do with my life because of my unexpected stroke. And I was diagnosed with aphasia. And I was at first opening to say 2 words. So I'm trying to find hope for myself because my life had come to a stop. I couldn't work anymore. I was pursuing my MSW at Fordham. So I was lost. And I found out about Adler. And the moment I walked into the place, I felt love. I knew no matter what that was going on, that this was the place for me. And Elaine, she would come in, visit with us. She would take her time to talk to each and every person like we were someone, because I know I lost a lot of my self-confidence from having a stroke and being diagnosed with aphasia, because I had to find who I was and I couldn't even communicate with words like everyone does. So they meant a lot to me. And I knew, Elaine personally. I went out to her house and it was raining so hard and we was going to see a play. So we was late, but she always had time. Always seemed to never rush to, never assumed anything that you want to say. She would wait. And she made me feel and everyone feel like we had value.
Crystal, thank you for not just joining us, but sharing your very personal memories of Elaine and Mike, but mostly Elaine in this case. One of the things that always struck me when I visited the Adler Aphasia Center, we'll put the website up so people can find out more. Yes, it was a program. Yes, they were always seeking funding. Yes, they were educating people about aphasia, but the very human, personal side of the center, Elaine embodied that. She cared deeply about people. And it wasn't just because she was a caregiver to Mike when Mike had his stroke and he was dealing with aphasia. She was like, look, this is a terrible thing that has happened to my husband, but he's not alone. she cared deeply on a human personal level, did she not?
She definitely did. And I'm going to say, even though she has passed, Adler continues that tradition. They have scholarships. You know, people, because of their medical conditions, their income is limited. So we give out scholarships. Some people attend for free. As long as you have a way to get there, you can attend Adler Aphasia Center. You get new hope with new classes. We have a member support group. We have computer when you're trained individually with a volunteer to help you with different like computer technologies regarding aphasia. If you have like occupational issues, you one-on-one doing jewelry making where we make jewelry and kitchen items that we sell towards a scholarship.
That's right.
It's so much more than anyone could ever imagine.
You know, Krista, people hear you now watching, they see you and they hear you, and you're so dynamic and powerful on the air, even in a remote setting. But when you had your stroke and you were diagnosed with aphasia, which is a communication disorder, I hate to bring you back, but as you said, you could not even put a couple of words together. Fast forward, you had your stroke in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes.
What's the message you have on behalf of not just everyone at the Adler Aphasia Center, but Mike and Elaine, everything they stood for, and all those who have come through the center, like you, who may be dealing with aphasia right now? Please share a message with them.
There is hope. I was only told that I have aphasia. No one would tell me I would be able to speak. All I could say yes and no. And now look at me now. Yes, I do have focusing, concentration issues, language processing, but I'm able to communicate like others. I'm able to find time and patience with myself to get those words out. And nobody told me that. But when I met Mike and Elaine and I continue to utilize the center, I get better and better with time. My comprehension gets better. My reading skills get better. I'm still sucking math though. I still need to talk it later. But I'm so much better. And it's all because Elaine and Mike Adler and their drive and energy and determination to make a difference in the lives for others.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you. To Crystal Stewart Batson and everyone else who cared so much about Mike and Elaine Adler, we'll remember them and the work that they did and the work that continues today at the Adler Aphasia Center. See you next time.
Remember Them with Steve Adubato and Jacqui Tricarico is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 30 years in public broadcasting. Funding has been provided by G.O.A.T Foundation, NJM Insurance Group, the New Jersey Education Association, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, the North Ward Center, Kane University, New Jersey Sharing Network, and by Community Food Bank of New Jersey. Promotional support provided by NJ.com and by ROINJ. To watch more Remember Them with Steve Adubato and Jacqui Tricarico, find us online and follow us on social media.
The groovy new wave in insurance advertising is mascots. You dig?
We believe great insurance speaks for itself.
Of course.
Check out this tubular idea.
It's a mascot, isn't it?
Okay.
TBH, you need a mascot, IRL.
For over 100 years, we've focused on one thing and one thing only, our customers' claims. No jingles or mascots, just great insurance. NJM.
I am alive today thanks to my kidney donor. I am traveling and more active than ever before.
I'm alive today thanks to my heart donor. I'm full of energy and back singing in my church choir.
I'm alive today thanks to my lung donor. I'm breathing easy and I'm enjoying life's precious moments.
There are about 4,000 people in New Jersey waiting for a life-saving transplant.
Donation needs diversity. For more information or to become an organ and tissue donor, visit njsharingnetwork.org.
The North Ward Center continues to expand their services and outreach in Newark from the childhood years to the golden years, offering programs like preschool, youth leadership development, Casa Israel Adult Medical Day Program, our Family Success Center, as well as a gymnasium. and most recently, Hope House, a permanent home for adults with autism, supporting and nurturing our autism community, with Hope House 2 coming soon. The North Ward Center, we're here when you need us.